You're listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. I started this podcast to learn what makes people resilient after challenging events and how they've used those series of events as a catalyst for change in their life. You'll hear stories of resiliency and strength, so get ready, sit back, and be prepared to be inspired. Today, my guest is Erik Allen. Erik overcame a traumatic childhood and was on his own from the age of 14. He found trouble along the way while searching for himself, and after finding himself empty and tired of settling for less, he found Christ and his life completely turned around. Erik and his wife are breaking the cycles handed down to them of addictions, depression, abuse, and lies. He believes in giving back and honoring those that have served our country. With his company's top-rated MMA and the Bearded Biz Show, he can do just that by lifting up others and giving back to the community and veterans through organizations like Higher Heroes. Thank you so much, Erik, for coming on my podcast, Catalyst for Change, Stories of Resiliency. Can you tell me a little bit about your background? I mean, I've heard your story, and I just want to tell listeners about it.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, thank you for having me on the show. It's such a great opportunity. But yeah, my story is really, I kind of grew up what I thought was a normal childhood. I grew up, parents were married, we played Little League. I had the dad who would take us behind big, grocery stores and furniture stores and throw us in dumpsters and say, hey, go find treasure, that type of thing. And my parents, they decided to get divorced when I was 11 years old. That was kind of a big shocker because I never saw my parents fight. I didn't even know that my dad at the time was an alcoholic. He, I never saw him abuse my mom or anything like that. They just, big shocker to me. And then, well, they ended up getting together, each of them with different people fairly quickly. And unfortunately, the boyfriend that my mom got was another alcoholic, and he was extremely abusive though. So I watched my mom get beat up quite a bit between 11 and 13 years old. Yeah. And, the middle of my 8th grade year, they decided to move us to Montana, which I was kind of excited about, but then kind of not, because I'm the second oldest of 19 first cousins that I was real close with. Yeah. And so moving to Montana from Washington was a big move. And of course, the abuse didn't stop. It actually got worse because we were out in the middle of nowhere where nobody would, be able to get there fast. Yeah. And it was kind of an interesting dynamic because the house that we moved to had 3 bedrooms. So it was like my mom and her boyfriend, and they had a kid together who was just a few months old. So he had his own room. And then my sister, who's 4 years younger than me, had her own room. And so for me, they said, you're out in the garage. And they literally put up a plastic wall on one side of the garage in the middle of Montana, and it just would get down to 0 degrees literally during the winter. Yeah. And that was my bedroom. I had a fireplace out there, and I would stoke the fire as much as I could. And then, of course, about, 2 hours later, when the fire goes out, it drops real quick and gets real cold out there. So that's where I lived, in that garage, and watched my mom, again, just continue to get abused. And I think I was about 12 or 13 at the time, but they came arguing when I believe my sister was at a friend's house. My little brother might've been sleeping, and it was about midnight. I'm brushing my teeth, and I kind of, they came arguing, nothing out of the ordinary, except for I felt something in my heart say, man, you got to turn around. You got to check this out. So the way the house was set up was I'm in the bathroom, and if I come out the hall and turn to the right, it goes to the kitchen and then the pantry, and then to my bedroom out in the garage. And as I turned that corner to look towards that garage door, my mom's boyfriend was on top of her, literally just punching her in the face, one after the other. Boom, boom. And I had to think, like, how do I get this guy off my mom? And, first thing that came to mind was this frying pan. So I snuck up behind them, and I grabbed one of those cast iron steel pans that you would take camping with you. Well, I played Little League, so I got a pretty good swing. So I just went up and swung as hard as I could, hit him in the back of the head, and it stopped him from punching her. But he kind of turned around in shock, I think, and he said, what the heck? And as he was mid-sentence, I took another swing and split his face open here. And so I'd split both the front and back of his face open. And I just remember there being blood on that second swing. I fell over, and he kind of stood over me. He was yelling at me, and my mom decided to jump up. And I remember seeing my mom punch him like 5-6 times in the face in a row. Boom, boom, and then blood splatting on the wall. It was just wild. And of course, the police came finally. They took him to jail for the night. My mom doesn't press charges. And it was at that point that I decided that, look, I gotta get out of here. And so, it was my freshman year. My mom actually made me go stay with multiple different friends for the rest of the school year, which made it kind of interesting for me, just kind of not living with my family at that point. And then I moved back to Washington to live with my dad. And, that was even more interesting because he rented this house for us and he'd put $20 in the cup. That was my lunch money for the week. And then he would go stay with his girlfriend. And so I lived in this house by myself, basically through high school. He would put Hunger Man meals in the freezer, cereal and milk in the fridge in the pantry. And that was kind of how I lived all through high school. I saw my dad maybe once, twice a month through that time. And it was pretty wild.
That does sound wild. It sounds like you had a very challenging childhood, and wow. And tell me what you're doing now.
Yeah. So I live out in Idaho. Been there for 15 years, and my wife and I, we married in under a year.
Yeah.
And we really started, when we came together, we decided that because she comes from this broken family as well, we said, we're not going to do this anymore. We're not going to allow the addictions and divorce into our family. Yeah. And so we really structured our family around us, really putting our heart into the Lord and saying, God, we need you to guide this family because we do come from this, broken homes, and we don't want to bring that into our kids. And so we're raising our kids different. We're on this mission to leave a better legacy for our kids that our parents left with us. And so that's what we're doing now. We've been married for 15 years and just really excited about what God has planned for us and just, open to what he wants us to do. And it's been awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like you've went from, that must have such a big change. And, people that come from a broken home or things that happened to them, traumas that happened, and being able to get through that. And then now you're helping other people and you're a believer in the Lord, and your spirituality is really helping you propel yourself and raise your family a lot differently.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
Okay, wonderful. And so tell me about, so you've done all this work, and what are you doing with other people to help other people now?
For me, I've always very fascinated with people's stories. And I think maybe it's because I came from such a crazy story that I love to hear other people's stories of getting through things. And so originally I started the Top Rated MMA podcast in 2017, where I just wanted to understand fighters, like why do they want to get into a cage and punch people and take punches and things like that. And, I've always been an MMA fan. So I thought, well, let's just start this show, and had no idea what I was doing. I did almost the first 100 episodes in a walk-in closet with horrible lighting, didn't know where the camera was at. And, but it was intriguing for me to hear fighters, like why they fight. And I heard everything from like, I love to fight, or I grew up wrestling, did karate, or I have federal offenses and I can't get a real job, but I could pay the bills if I go fight a couple times a year.
It's just interesting.
And so, that's what I'm doing now with the Top Rated MMA show. And I'll actually have my 200th episode come out later this year, which I'm really excited about. But then in January of 2019, I launched a brand new show called The Bearded Biz. And that's where I get to talk with what I call entrepreneurs, world changers, and success-minded people. And it really just opened that door for me to bring on guests that have these motivational, inspiring stories where, I've been blessed to talk with guys like Ed Milet and Tim Story and hardcore closer Ryan Stewman and Eric LeGrand. And, I actually just spoke to Jake Steinman yesterday, who's the guy who created the Body by Jake brand, from the early 80s and 90s. And just doors are opening on that. And so I love being able to bring those stories out to the market and be able to share those stories. And hopefully at least one person gets inspired or motivated by the guests that I bring on.
How have you been inspired and motivated by the guests that you bring on to your show? What have you learned?
So much. Every single guest just brings on so much knowledge. And, for me to understand the morning routines of how leaders are doing this or getting through their day, or, what types of things are they doing mentally to train for their, to stay focused and keep their mindset going and not get distracted with the shiny object syndrome that's out there that a lot of people chase, And so there's so much. Every single guest brings so much knowledge for me. And I think selfishly, I want these guests on because I want to learn from them. Yeah. And so I'm like, I just want to get these guys on. And then at the same time, I'm like, I hope they can, transfer that knowledge to others that are listening to the shows. And so, for me, it's just every single guest that comes on, I'm learning just a little bit more. And I'm always just intrigued to just learn and learn and learn. So what
have you adopted that you've learned from the people that have been on your show?
Yeah, Ed Milet was one of my favorite guests, and I actually won his challenge that he put out on Instagram last year, called the Max Out Challenge. We had to submit a 1-minute story to him, and essentially just saying what our business was and why we wanted to do that. And I was able to have a phone call with him, which blew my mind, because here's this guy worth $450 million. He's got a house on the lake up here, and I'm like, oh, let me talk to this guy. And his book called Max Out really was life changing for me, because he really goes into details about morning routines and really sticking with them. And I've adopted that into my daily life. And so for me, I wake up at 4 a.m. 6 days a week. And then on Sundays, I set my alarm for 5, but I rarely make it to 5. But I get up and I have the same routine every single day. I wake up, I have prayer, I'm downstairs working out, and then I come upstairs and I start really focusing on my day-to-day of my business and contacting people for my shows and editing shows, and then also really filling my brain with motivational and inspirational speakers. So I listen to that about 25 to 45 minutes a day. And so that's really what I've adapted. So Ed Milet definitely being one of those, my favorite guests on the show. His book really transformed my life and allowed me to, or kind of pushed me to even start my own show. The Bearded Biz Show was inspired from him.
Oh, nice. Well, that's really, I'm going to have to listen to your show more then. Cause I want to listen to that episode and learn those morning tips. Cause the morning is so valuable. Yeah. You have all this, if you start it off right, your whole day goes right.
Exactly.
I agree with that. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Yeah. So is there anything that you want to tell our guests, that we may not have covered?
I would say this, like, if you want to make change in your life, just do it. Like, I think that no matter the past that you've had, no matter what you've gone through, Ed Milet and Tony Robbins have both said this, kind of like, life happens for us, not to us. So take advantage of that. And so I think once I heard Ed and Tony say that, I really adopted that into my life. And I said, the past is the past. I can learn from it, but I'm not going to let that change my future. And so for me, every single day, I'm always about learning and how can I improve myself better. I have this thing on my wall that says constant and never ending improvement. And so I have to literally see that every single day. And it's really this mindset that I have when I come out. So I would say, if you want to make a change, you can do it. Here I am, I'm 41, or I'll be 41 later this year. And last year I wanted to hit 175 pounds by my 40th birthday in December. And so I started to work out, and it lasted about 2 days. And then guess what? My birthday came December, and I still weighed almost 200 pounds. And I was like, got this dad bod rocking, and so 2020 comes around. We've got this corona, everything's shut down. Yeah. And so I said, okay, I'm going to do this for real this time. And so May 4th of this year, I started working out. I made it 10 days before I missed a day. And I was like, what is going on? And so I said, that's it. I'm not going to be a quitter. I restarted on May 16th. And I set a goal. I was going to do 90 days straight of 45 minutes of cardio. And I did May 16th through August 16th. Actually, I haven't missed a day of workout since, but I'm down 30 pounds and been able to, get healthy. I was able to step away from cholesterol pills that I was taking. And so if there's anything that your guests are wanting to do in their life, whether that's getting fit or business or anything like that, just don't quit.
And don't, if you have a tough time, getting started and you end up quitting, don't give up on yourself. Keep restarting. It sounds like is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
If you failed once, doesn't mean you're going to fail the next time.
Right. Yeah. Just keep fighting.
Just keep fighting. Yeah. And now did you change your diet, or you just had some exercise plan that you did?
I did.
Both.
So I changed everything. So 45 minutes of cardio every single day. I cut back on, I got rid of all my sweets, because I'm a big sweet tooth guy. I like the chocolate, I like and so I actually went to almost a full salad diet for my lunch and dinner, but not like rabbit food salad. Like I was pounding
good salads
with proteins and nuts. And, I ate a ton of veggies and tons of fruit. And breakfast, I just went back to eating egg whites and turkey bacon. And so I did that every day for 90 days and really just focus on. And even now, still, I just eat the egg whites, and lunch, I'll usually have a nice salad, and then dinner, I just have smaller portions. Right. And I've been able to maintain that. And the program that I kind of followed was something that me and a business partner started kind of talking about was we're calling it the 4590. And we're going to launch that soon of just really, it's a free guide for those dads that want to lose that dad bod or moms that want to get back into shape or, people who are just single and want to get in better shape. It's really just sticking to it. Yeah. And saying, look, if you can do 45 minutes of cardio, if you can do 25 to 45 minutes of mental, training, listening to motivational speakers every single day and watch your diet for 90 days straight, you'll make a change. And here's my thing is if you miss a day, start over. Like if you're on day 60 and you miss a workout day or you eat a French fry, go start over on day one and hit that 90 days. Cause I think if you can hit that 90 days, it's a huge accomplishment for you. And it really just sets the tone moving forward.
I really like that. And so where could they find more information about you and then that 4590 diet? I'm really interested in that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's coming. The 4590 is actually going to be released very, very soon. We're having a brand new website put together right now as we speak. They can follow us on topratedmma.com. And then that leads to my inspirational page, about me. And then the Bearded Biz Show is also on there. And then we're all on social media. So YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all of that under Top Rated MMA and Bearded Biz Show for all of those. And so that's how people can get a hold of me. And certainly if they have questions around the 4590 prior to it coming out, they can certainly message me. But yeah, we're going to roll that out probably within the next 3 to 4 weeks.
Okay.
And it'll be a free offering. And then of course there will be some, if people want to have coaching and stuff like that, we'll have that available. But yeah, we'll release it all for free.
Oh, wonderful. Well, you've been very inspirational to talk to. You have such a good energy about you, and I really appreciate talking to you. Well, and I'll make sure to have all that information about where to find you in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for this time. This was awesome.
You've been listening to Catalyst for Change, and my name is Jessica Huckabee, your host. Join us next week for another story of resiliency. And please subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts, and feel free to leave me a comment or email me at catalystforchange20@gmail.com, or on Facebook, we have a page at Catalyst for Change Resiliency.